For me, the sociological imagination is a tool for understanding other people's perspectives of the world. It's about using your own experience to try and see the world through their experience and their histories. You've got to understand that everyone experiences the world differently. And why is that? Is that from their own experiences, from their own histories, from their own contexts? And the sociological imagination involves putting all those things together to try and develop a picture of someone else's world.
So to me, the sociological imagination is an awareness of the relationship between individual experience and wider society, as well as like that ability to really see things from different or multiple perspectives, and constantly remembering that relationship between the individual and the wider society, and not seeing them as entirely separate or in sort of like a binary opposition to each other.
Miles has sort of developed and coined this phrase, and it is for me, and it's probably what it is for most sociologists, the possibility to put yourself into somebody else's shoes, to see their perspective. It's not really divorcing yourself from your research, especially if you do ethnographic research or you go very close to those research subjects. It's just a way of applying theory, which you've read obviously during your undergrad times, and you've been not just taught, you're sort of engaged with it critically as well, and you apply that to be able to see something different than your own perspective. So what that means in practice for me is I'm not writing my own experience if I work and live with these people for a while.
My research concerned, it's good, okay, it looked at home brewing communities and the kind of politics that emerged through that. I wanted to look at the way that people respond to the world through their own experiences of it. And it was very much about looking at what happens in someone's life and how they experience that, whether it's positive or negative, and how that then directs their behaviour. So obviously my own experiences led me to make a few assumptions about what I would find, and some of them turned out to be wrong, but a lot of them were quite on the mark as far as people responding to their experience of capitalist society and how they responded to that and how their actions were directed by their experiences of it.
I do research on fly-in fly-out workers here in Australia. I apply my sociological imagination in a couple of ways. I do try to actually keep it in chunks. Like I did the research in an ethnographic way. I started with interviews, but then I was lucky enough to actually engage deeper with these very mobile workers. And I was, during my analysis of whatever I've had, my field notes, my interview data, and so on, I saw certain topics appearing, and I then looked at these topics and tried to engage with them through a theoretical lens. So I was able to sort of see what structuring forces are pushing and working on these people, like globalization, like the disconnect, like the commodification of labor.
I looked at how individuals choose identity and select community in this sort of like new phase of modernity that we're in. And to do that, I used a music scene in Perth as my empirical base to kind of debunk that idea that subculture and youth and stuff is really like grounded and it has really distinct boundaries and it's that kind of thing for life. It's far more banal than that. It's an everyday thing that people do, and it's becoming more intrinsically related to sort of choice, and then of course structure relates to choice, and if the social structures are changing, then the way we choose is changing.
I don't think it's a question whether it's useful or not. I think it's something that a good person should be able to exercise on a daily basis. You know, how can you possibly understand the problems that people have in their daily lives if you can't remove yourself from your own context and just think about someone else's history or someone else's personal experience? I don't think it's a tool that we use at will, though. It's something that it's a capacity that we can develop.